Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to Opus Magnum with Lyte. Today we're looking at Alchemical Jewel. Now this one, it's a very large product, and so it leads to some interesting challenges with both the size and the speed. So we're going to start off looking at minimizing the area with this first solution, compact-ish, where it just tries to get the job done. It does what it can to be relatively cheap and relatively small, and it's really quite straightforward in how it produces the output. It has a little building area, and then it moves it over to the output. It does the staging as best it can, little bit by little bit. So if we do it a little bit faster, just shimmies back and forth, shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. But you can see some fairly glaring problems with this right off the bat. It uses up a lot of blue space. There's a lot of spaces out in here that it covers that it probably doesn't need to. And cost-wise, it uses a piston. I'm sure by now you're going, Lyte, we know whenever you have a piston, use an arm and a track. Arm and a track, arm and a track, arm and a track. And you're right. So we move on to shimmy, make it nice and cheap. 50 G's. We just use an arm and a track. It's more or less the same solution. We've got the one bonder, an arm, a track, and a calcifier. It attaches it, rotates it back, and shimmy, shimmy, shimmy all night long until you got yourself a product. Let's scroll all the way to the end and then fast forward it a bit, such that you can see it does in fact just piece by piece build the whole thing. The only way you can make this any cheaper is by getting rid of the track, and if you manage that, wow. I mean, there might be something you could do, but the biggest problem with trying to do it without a track is you would need a size 1 arm moving it back and forth and around, because that's the only way you would be able to move it back and forth. Can you make this thing with a size 1 arm? Let's find out. Where is the trouble making it with a size 1 arm? So you have a size 1 arm. You need a gold, you need an earth, and there we might already run into some trouble, because we're going to need a calcifier somewhere. But we could probably put it out in the periphery somewhere. We need a bonder. Well, let's put it close to that. Maybe a little further away. And we'll need a place to dump it. I'm thinking here's fine. We'll start on the green for the sake of easy resets, but we'll still need the gold in the middle. We don't necessarily need to build it from the middle. There we're going to run into the problem. If we have the gold here, and we're trying to build all of the bonds around it, you will reach a point in which there's something here, and it'll need to be on top of the arm to be able to finish it. So is there any way around that? So, for example, you've got most of this built, and you're trying to add one of these to your solution. You'd end up having the gold on here, and you need to put this guy here, but this guy would hit your arm. And so, no matter how you shift things about, you would eventually need to have an orientation of this where you need to put in this bond, but it's just not gonna let you. I mean, unless... No, I'm gonna go with no. Because I'm thinking maybe you build a separate part and then you bond it in some other way. But there's just too many things here. So is there anything else we can do? Because there might be a way around it. There's often a way around that isn't strictly obvious. Because maybe you could use a multi-bonder and have it make that bond somewhere else. And so you attach it here and then use the multi-bonder to get this bond somehow. So... but the multi-bonder's too expensive. The whole point of this is to make it cheap. Because the multi-bonder is more expensive than using the two pieces of track. So the question becomes, are you able to get this bond with these two already in place? Because the only option there would be to change the orientation of this, but if you're using this orientation, you can't just use the one arm to get things onto both spaces. So it has to be an orientation like that. And once you have the orientation like this, you're not going to be able to finish this center part. Just not going to happen. And so that's a worthwhile look at it. And so I am confident that Shimmy is as cheap as you're going to get it. So now let's start making it even smaller. So Compact Dish had a problem of using up too much space, so we take a look at Buzzsaw, where we added more stuff. So you'd think it would take more space, but it does a better job of overlapping with the exit. And by overlapping with the exit, down in this area, you use up less of this space up here. So even though we have more machinery up there, we have less usage of the space overall. But anytime you end up using two tracks like this, one to build it and one to move it into place, you're probably wasting something. Whether it's money or space, it just feels wrong. It got the job done. That is for certain. Builds the thing, adds the outside, shifts it a little bit for bonding everything together, shoves it in, you're good to go. Still feels bad. So we go in for one more attempt. And we try to get rid of this part up here and try to overlap even more, if possible. And there we get overlap with 27 area. So this one uses cheaper materials, fewer materials, and works on keeping it over the exit as much as possible. Now, it's not always possible because you do need to have this entire shape, and you need to be able to bind it, and the bonder cannot be on the exit. Now, it still uses a few blue spaces, and right here, it adds one more. That last one is what really makes me, we could probably do better. I have a feeling there was someone clever out there that can either reposition this one or something such that we don't use up this hex right here. I think there are two hexes that we might have a chance of getting rid of. So if you can get this area down to 26 or 25, feel free to leave a comment down in the comments, over on Twitter, or on my Discord. Links down in the doobly-doo. But this is as small as I was able to make it. Thinking about it, there might be a way of changing this guy's position such that we can move a little bit closer, still get the job done. But I don't know. So that's cheap and small. And as always, we're going to finish off with fast. Here's my first attempt. It's called Dizzy because, well, it goes round and round. It's also a kind of divide and conquer solution where we build the two pieces, bind them together, and then move them up into the assembly area. Unfortunately, the assembly area has a little bit of extra labor that has to happen because of just how many bonds we have going on in here. And so we've got this bottom part that assembles the earths, this part that assembles the salts. Since the salts take a little more time, that gives us a chance to move the earth up into position, and then we move that up here, and it spins round and round, and you're done. But there's a lot that just doesn't quite work out for this. So we've got one piece worth 4. So there are 3 such pieces. So now we start counting for our last Earth. So this is not the last one yet. This is the next to last one. So we have grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeesh. Because we are pulling as often as possible. It's pull, grab, or grab, pull, grab, move, grab, move. And so, asymptotically optimal, but counting that high at the end, you know you can do better than that. That's a lot of stuff for that last Earth to need to do. So that 81, we're not confident about that 81. And so, oftentimes, when you want to go faster, you need to make it more simple. A little bit simpler goes a long way to just cleaning up those last little bits. And so this one, instead of doing the divide and conquer, which is great when you're disassembling things, it's a little sketchy sometimes when assembling it. And so instead, what we do is we just spin and spin and spin. Instead of having 3 pieces of 2, or 3 pieces of size 4, we have 6 pieces of size 2. Snap, move, snap, move, snap, move, snap. Now that reduces the amount of snappage that happens prior to attaching to the gold. And now, if we watch the last Earth, which is right now, we grab... So that's 1. So we grab 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of 9, we've got 4. That cuts it down from, was it 81 to 76? Now, that still doesn't feel optimal. Counting up to 4 is still probably more than is strictly necessary. And so you wonder, just how low could we possibly get it? Well, if you add salt last, it requires 2 snaps and a conversion. So that costs 3. We're only doing 4, so we could reduce it by 1 cycle by having the salt last and have it on as efficiently as possible. Everything else is done. We just attach the salts and convert them. If we tried to do something else, try to add something else last. Say we tried to add this one last. Well, it would take a minimum of 1, 2 snaps, and then you're done. Snap, snap, move, drop would reduce it by 2 cycles. So instead of snap, snap, convert, drop, it's just snap, snap, drop. And so we'd be able to save 2 cycles by doing that. So if we can figure out some way of getting this guy in last, we'd be able to cut this from 76 down to 74. I have yet to be able to assemble it in a reasonable way to do that. Because trying to get something into that side of something in 1 tick, like 1 cycle, is a bit of a nightmare. But I'm fairly confident that it can be done. I haven't gone looking for any solution. So if you have a 74 cycle solution, I'm not sure I want to see it. I kind of want to try to build one myself, But that would be the trick. Because right now, we're adding the outside things last, and we're using a lot of secondary attachment. If you're able to build the whole thing and then add these guys last, well, I don't even know if you could do that, because it would have to be this guy and then something comparable. So, I don't know, because it can't have both going into the gold at the same time, because gold can only be bonded on, well, I mean, if it's on a multi-bond. So, you see my dilemma? Maybe you can do it, maybe you can't. Maybe one of them is multi-bonded this way, and the other one is bonded that way first, and then they switch as they're being dropped. It's a big ol' mess of a thing, but I'm confident it can be done. 74. Just don't see it just yet. So if you have any of those wonderful solutions for cheap, small, or fast, heck, even if you've got a much slower solution, but it's really fun looking, feel free to share it with everybody, and I will see you in the next episode of Opus Magnum with Lyte.